You're bringing you another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a tier list post the brand new release of the Mysterious Labyrinth selection pack and the Immortal Glory Zombie structure deck. This tier list is going to be focused on the Duelist Cup, which is also taking place currently as I'm recording this video as of December 8th, and it's going to be going I think pretty much for the rest of the month. I don't know the exact dates on it, but usually I like to do my tier list based on tournaments and somewhat based on ladder play, but mostly tournaments because I'm a competitive player first and foremost. But for this tier list, I'm going to be doing a Duelist Cup one because we're all going to be playing the Duelist Cup and we all want to do good in it. And I want to tell you guys what are going to be the best strategies to prepare for and even to play in this event. So without further ado, let's jump right on in. I got 5 categories to talk about. We have meta defining. These are going to be the decks that you're going to be seeing a lot in this. There might not be the best decks in the game, but they're going to be the decks that are defining the meta for the Duelist Cup. Then we have Tier 2, Tier 3. These are going to be, just well-rounded strategies that you're probably going to run into every now and then. They're going to be really solid decks, but they might not be the best decks. Rogue. These are decks that are going to be designed to specifically catch you off guard in an event like this. There are not going to be too many in this category. Well, there actually are going to be a lot in this category, but it's kind of hard to decipher between Rogue and Tier 3 in my opinion. I think Rogue decks are just going to be inherently worse than Tier 3 decks, but you're going to catch you off guard, kind of like I said. Then finally we have UR/SR Dust. These are the decks that you should dismantle to build a good deck for this event. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump right on in. Starting off with any going second OTK strategy like Numerons, 8-axis, so on and so forth, for the Duelist Cup, which is going to be a best of 1 format, and it's going to be all about quick wins and high win rate, which may be more so quick wins. But I think this is going to be a Tier 3 strategy, right? You're going to know from the time you see your opening hand whether you win or lose that game. And you can just surrender if you're going to lose it. Okay, move on to the next one. If you know you're going to win, you just OTK your opponent, move on to the next one. It's going to be very fast, very efficient. I think it's going to be a great option for anyone who kind of just wants to get some cheesy wins, especially in Stage 2. Emancipator. This is going to be the beginning of a very probably controversial theme for my tier list because I've already kind of worked out ahead of time where I want to put these decks for this event specifically. It's a lot more difficult to rank decks for a specific event that's so unique like the Duelist Cup, but I think this is going to be a Tier 3 strategy. The reason being is because I think it's better than that in like tournament play, but in something like this, I think it's going to really suffer from the fact that if you don't go first and you're not able to get your FTK locks off, you're going to be putting yourself in a really awkward situation. Your combos take forever to do, so it's going to be slower inherently, especially if you're going second and you have to play through inboards and play through different interactions. It's just going to make the games a lot longer, which you don't necessarily want in an event like this. In Stage 2 exclusively, right? In Stage 1 it doesn't matter as much because you have like 2 weeks essentially to get to Duelist level 20 or whatever it is. So this is like Stage 2 focused. Like combo decks like this are going to really struggle because they beat themselves more than anything else. Max C really hurts you. How long it takes to combo hurts you. Really wanting to go first is just not great in something like this. Whereas something like the 8-axis and the OTK decks, they just choose to go second. So they're going to be able to basically go in the order they want every single game, at least most games, because most people are going to pick to go first, and you're always going to pick to go second, so it's good for you. But anyways, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. I got a lot of decks that are going to fall in that same line of reasoning and same category for that. Adventure Phantom Knights, this is going to be meta defining, almost 100% guarantee it. You're going to see this deck a lot because Scythe Lock is so easy to establish, and it's just a pure FTK. It's a lot easier to establish that than like Buster Lock is in Emancipator. And not to mention, this deck goes second a lot better than decks like Emancipator. It goes second really good because of the adventure cards, because of cards like Zeus, cards like Breaksword. All the Phantom Knight engine is really good going second. So it's going to be a very solid choice, and you're going to be playing against this quite a bit. Tribrigades. This is the Adventure Zodiac Tri variant, which is in my opinion, this has always been my favorite version of it. I love this deck. I have a soft spot for it. I don't know if it's the best one, but I really enjoy it. I think it's going to be great. I think all Tribrigade variants are going to be very strong. Primarily, Tribrigade variants are going to be really strong. Some of the other variants, I'll talk about those soon, but I think pure Tri Adventure Zoo, Tri Zoo, Branded Tri, Tri Claw. What are some of the other ones? There's so many of them. Yeah, there's so many different variants of Tribrigade. They're all going to be really solid because they can play going first, they can play going second, they can play a lot of hand traps. They're just very well-rounded strategies. They don't get just blown out by Max C. They can play through a lot. They can establish a lot. They're going to be really solid choices. Virtual World. I think Virtual World's also going to be a really solid choice for this because it doesn't lose as hard to Max C as it did previously. When I say lose to Max C, this deck never lost to Max C because VFD just destroys everything. But we don't have VFD anymore, so what are you going to be doing with this? Well, you're going to be establishing inboards with Baron de Fleur, Shin, Beatrice sending a floodgate type card like Token Collector or Snow. Snow's obviously not a floodgate, or Scythe to the graveyard, then summoning it out on your opponent's turn to just FTK your opponent. It's got a lot of great options. It can play under Max C fairly well because of the adventure package and because it doesn't need to establish a lot because it always has a lot of follow-up, and it can play cards like the trap card, Chuchi, I think it's called. I'm probably misremembering the name of the trap card that pops one, but I think it's Chuche, whatever it is. But anyways, it has multiple lines of interruptions, multiple ways to interrupt your opponent without losing super hard to Max C, so it's going to be really solid for that reason. And it's got a lot of utility going against going second and playing into floodgates and so on and so forth. So I think Virtual World's going to be a really, really strong option, and it's going to be a slept-on option, even with the VFD banning. At Ignister, this might be my first bold pick of, well, not really, because I feel like a lot of this stuff is kind of bold. Saying Adamantipator is worse than these decks in this event, I think is a little bold, because I think this deck is generally better than both these decks in tournament settings, but for the Duelist Cup, I don't think so. But this is going to be probably very bold. I think At Ignister is going to be a meta-defining deck for this event. The reason being is because of this guy on screen right here, Rival At Ignister. I'm just going to pull him up really quickly because this card is insane. This guy's, you can make this thing anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 attack, and it is unaffected by card effects. You also play 15 to 20 hand traps, so the deck's good going first, the deck is good going second, it's got a lot of versatility, it's got a lot of options, a lot of different lines of play, not just with the Arrival. It can play it for Heat Soul control, it can do so much, and it can access code OTK, just so on and so forth. It's a great option. The reason this deck is not great in, best of 3 situations and, tournament settings, which is what I normally rank my tier list off of, is because you can side deck very hard against this. But if you're not siding for this, this is going to catch so many people off guard, and so many decks just auto lose to a 6,000 attack tower that is unaffected, right? So I think this is going to be phenomenal for this deck, for this event, and I highly recommend you picking it up, testing it out, or maybe not picking it up. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. There's plenty of good decks, but be prepared to see this. But if you have it, I recommend trying it for sure. Branded Despia, you guys already know, this is the best deck in the game, basically, and it's going to continue to be so for this. People are going to be pre-siding for this, and it's not going to change the fact that this is going to be one of the best decks. It got even better with the most recent release of the new Fusion, the new Traps, so on and so forth. So there's not much to say here. This deck's amazing. Moving on to Branded Eldlich. So I actually think Branded Eldlich is going to be pretty mid for this. I think what it does what Eldlich does worse than pure Eldlich, like Trap Eldlich, and it does what Branded Despia does worse than pure Branded Despia. So don't play this deck, in my opinion. It's a fun deck, and it can counter a lot of stuff, but you're gonna just lose to either Eldlich or Branded, right? So I would not recommend this. I would not touch this, but I would play Branded Despia or Eldlich. I will go ahead and say that. I'm gonna go ahead and rank that. I'm gonna put Eldlich where everybody hates it and meta defining. I hate this deck. I think Eldlich is such a toxic way to play the game, but you can't deny that in a best of 1 scenario, this is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be one of the best decks in the game. It has access to every floodgate imaginable pretty much, except the Macrocosmos, D-Fissure, stuff like that. but you can play the rivalries, Gozens, Summon Limit, Anti-Spell. There can be only one. You name it, this deck can play it. And it's going to force people to play back row removal in a meta where they don't want to play back row removal, because then you're going to be playing against decks like Ignister and Despia. And you're going to be like, oh gosh, I have red reboot versus Ignister. What am I doing here, right? But because Eldlich is so dominant and it's such a good, strategy for just best of ones, you can't go wrong with this. Branded Invoked, again, I think this is going to be a rogue deck. I don't think it's going to be very good. I think it's going to be worse than pure Despia, because adding in the Invoked engine, maybe even some Dogmatica cards, maybe even some Shadal cards, is all great. But if you do that, you're always going to be over 40 cards. It's almost impossible to play that at 40 cards, play your Despia cards, play your branded cards, and play hand traps, or just general going second cards and stay at 40. So you're probably going to be playing closer to like 45, 50. And that's not something you want to do for an event like this. You want to keep your deck as consistent as possible and just as efficient as possible. And that's not what Invoked Branded does. The deck's great. I love the deck a lot. It's been seeing a lot of play recently, but I don't think it's going to be as well-rounded as pure Despia is for this event. Branded Thunder Dragons, I think you can make an argument that this is tier 3. It's either going to be tier 3 or rogue. I'll put it in tier 3. The reason being is because it's different from these two decks down here. These two decks down here lose their identity to, like, Invoked loses its identity to Branded. Eldlich, if you're playing it with a branded card, kind of loses its identity of like the Floodgate strategy to the branded cards. Whereas Thunder Dragons, they just get better as a deck because of branded fusion, right? So I think combining these two is going to be a lot better in a situation like this than it would be for like combining them with these decks for this event in particular, because you can still play Thunder Dragons at 40 cards. You can play all your Thunder Dragon engine, which is fine going first or second. You can have access to cards like Colossus, Titan, so on and so forth. And also Mirror Jade from Branded Fusion, which is fantastic. It's really, really great. So yeah, that's kind of where I, rank this deck. I think this deck's going to be really good. It can FTK people with cards like Colossus. It can just be an auto win versus so many decks. And it can play going second very well. And it can also grind, like, almost better than any other deck in the game. It has literally an infinite grind game with Thunder Dragon Fusion and Thunder Dragon Roar. So I think this is going to be a sleeper pick. Dinos, this might also be a bold pick. I think Dinos are going to be the best quote-unquote meta pick that's not like Eldlich in the game. I think it's going to be really, really good because it does, and when I say this, I'm going to be completely honest with you, not the scrap version, just the going second version of Dinos. The reason I say that is because you can main deck Collector. It's got synergy with Lost World. If you don't know about that, look it up. It's kind of insane. I'll briefly explain it really quickly, but basically, if you have Lost World plus Token Collector plus a Dino, you go full combo. Because Lost World protects your token from the Token Collector popping your own token, or popping your opponent's token when you summon it to the board. It means you get a body, and you get Lost World's effect to pop a baby in deck, and then full combo from there. It's actually insane. It's going to have a great Sword Soul matchup, which is going to be very popular. It's going to have a great Despia matchup because of Misk. It's really good against Despia because of that. It doesn't lose to cards like Scythe necessarily. It can still play through that kind of stuff. It might struggle versus something like Ignister. It might also struggle against something like Eldlich, but you take what you can get, right? It's going to be really good against two of the most popular decks, and I think it could be a really, really, really good sleeper pick for this event. Dragon Link, you guys know I love my dragons. I'm a dragon main. It's my favorite deck, but it's going to be pretty bad, to be honest with you. It's going to be very mediocre in an event like this for two reasons. One is because it's 60 cards, so it inherently has more inconsistencies than a 40-card deck. It doesn't always show that. The deck is very consistent, I will say. Like it draws, for a 60-card deck, it draws very strong, very consistently. But even as a dragon main, I can't deny the fact that playing 60 just puts you in a weird situation, right? Also, it's got the same problem as all the other combo decks, and it just takes so long to combo. And it makes your turn ones 10 minutes long, not really, but like 10-minute long turns just to potentially win, or maybe lose. I don't know. Whatever happens, it happens. But your games are always going to be long if you're going first. And your games are always going to be long if you go second, because this deck plays pretty good going second, but it's just going to be a long, grindy game if you go second. And not grindy in the sense of like a lot of turns, but grindy in the sense like your opponent's probably going to play for a while, then you're going to play through a while trying to break it, then you're probably not going to kill them, and they're going to have a whole nother turn, then you're going to have a whole nother turn, so on and so forth. And I played this in the first Duelist Cup, and I regret it because it just takes so long to play dragon games. It hurts me to say that because I love this deck more than anything. It's my favorite deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! But I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a good choice for this. Heroes, I think this will be a rogue strategy. Dark Law's great, but Nib sucks. Ending on Dark Law's fantastic, but ending on a Nibiru token is significantly worse than that, and Nibiru is going to be a really popular card. Because Nibiru is going to be really good against all the combo decks. Sword Soul, Adventure Phantom Knights, Ignister, Marincess, everything that you're going to be seeing a lot in this, it's going to be really good against those. It's not going to be great against Eldlich and Despia, but, you can't have everything, right? You're going to have to pick and choose what you play. And I think every deck's going to play probably 1 to 2 nibs. So, for that reason, I don't think heroes are going to be very good. Moving on to Drytrons. I think Drytron's probably going to be the best of the combo decks, but I don't think it's going to be a great option because Max C is a card, it's very slow. Not slow in the sense of it's a slow deck. It's a very fast deck, but it takes a long time to establish its inboards. It's not the best going second, but it's solid. It's just glass cannony, right? You're trying to commit to ending on 6 negates, but if your opponent sees you doing that, they're just going to be like, okay, next game, right? So you're going to get some free wins, which is great, but you're also just going to lose a lot because you're playing a glass cannon-like deck. So I wouldn't recommend it personally for an event like this. I don't think it's as good as a glass cannon deck as Virtual World was for the previous one, because VFD, they max C you just VFD anyways. They might have 20 cards in their hand, but as long as one of them's not Droplet or Dark Ruler, you're good to go. You're rolling. We have Flunder here. This is tough. Honestly, I think this might be SR Dust. It's a good deck. I'm still very high on this deck, even with the consistency hits and with the barrier hit. But I think in an event like this, your FTK potential has dropped significantly, and you're going to be playing a lot more grind games. And that's not going to be what you want in a event like this. I know that's kind of being hypocritical when you look at Eldlich's meta defining, but the reason Eldlich I'm saying is meta defining is because your grind games in Eldlich are almost always going to result in wins, right? Because you have all these floodgates. Whereas Flunder, your grind games are really up in the air because you don't have access to as many floodgates anymore, and the floodgates you do have access to aren't inherently as oppressive as the ones that Eldlich has. Because your barrier's gone, right? You only have really Impin now. Rise is still amazing. Apex Avion's still great, so there's potential there, but I don't think it's going to be as good as other control decks for this event specifically. Invoke Dogmatic Shadal. I think this is going to be right here in SR Dust. I don't think this is going to be worth playing. Play Branded Despia, play another branded strategy, play another fusion strategy than this. This deck is good. Wind is amazing. The Dogmatic cards are really, really good, but it's really slow. The deck is not fast. It's a slow control deck, and that's not going to be great in this. And it also loses very heavily to so many different things. One well-timed hand trap can kind of just end your whole thing. One imperm on a Winda, your opponent's kind of just going to be able to play through your board no problem. So this deck has a lot of flaws, and those are going to be kind of exacerbated in an event like this, I think. Labyrinth, I'm just now noticing, I'm pretty sure this is the Labyrinth card that's not even out yet. Hold on. Oh, no, I can't spell. Oh, gosh. Oh, did I spell that wrong? L-A-B, R-Y. N-T-H, yeah. Okay, yep. That's a little embarrassing. Yeah, this is the Labyrinth, the Lady Labyrinth that's not even out yet. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm an idiot. I'm a bozo. But Labyrinth, anyways, where would I rank this deck? I think Labyrinth is going to be... I think it'll be a rogue deck. I think it'll be a solid rogue deck, maybe even. But but I don't think it's going to be that great of one because we don't have all the cards yet. We're missing the lady right here, the Lady of the Labyrinth, like of the Silver Castle. So I don't know if the deck's going to be at full potential right now. And I just think Eldlich is going to be a better choice, to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I could be totally wrong in like this. It could be like this, and I could just be a complete idiot, not giving this deck enough credit. But this is also due to the fact that I don't know Labyrinth super well. And from what I've seen, it's less consistent than Eldlich, and it's not as good going second as Eldlich is. So for those reasons, I think it's going to be worse. But again, this is coming from someone's perspective who doesn't know this deck very well. So if someone knows more about this deck, let me know in the comment section below if I'm totally wrong, and I will admit it. I'll be happy to admit it, because I hope this deck is good. I hope this can take Eldlich's spot as the oppressive trap deck, which even I don't want an oppressive trap deck, but if we have to have one, I'd rather it be a new one. But anyways, moving on to Evil Twins / Live Twins. I think this will be a solid tier 3 option. It's not as good, as my opinion, as the cyber strategies that can just establish like a really, really good inboard, but you can still play a lot of going second cards. You can play a lot of non-engine. It's fantastic. It combos off of one card very nicely. So you really can't go wrong with a deck like this, to be honest. But I don't think it's going to be oppressive or anything like that. Madolche. I think Madolche will be Rogue. Where in Rogue? I don't know exactly. It might be one of the worst Rogue decks. This is hard for me to rank because this is a solid deck. It usually gets a lot of its wins from people not knowing how to play against it. But in best of one, well, that could be really good in best of one, right? I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think the deck's consistent enough to be anything more than Rogue. I will say that. But it could be higher up in the Rogue list just because no one knows what they're doing against it. We could even put it here because like literally nobody knows how to play against it, and everyone knows how to play against these decks. But time will tell. It's a hard deck to rank. Then next we got Marincess. I'm going to throw Marincess up here with that Ignister as a meta-defining deck because the ability to make like a towers like a card for their inboard and also have that trap. The trap is insane. Playing 20 hand traps is insane. Comboing off one card is insane, and making their like unaffected boss monster is just really, really good. It's solid all around. I don't know which one's better, to be honest. I think Ignister might be slightly better. Sorry about that. Sorry about the yawn. I think Ignister might be slightly better because it can go second a little bit better than Marincess can because it has access code OTK potential. But again, these could be flipped. Let me know in the comment section below how wrong I am on this stuff. Anyways, moving on to Orchest. This is URSR Dust, sadly. I love the deck. You guys know that. I just uploaded a deck profile on it. It's one of my favorite decks, like, ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! But it's all dark, and we have Protoss in the game. So, like, it's terrible. It's so unfortunate. But, yeah, because of that, the deck's not going to be great. And also because the deck going first loses to Valor and Nib and Ash and every other hand trap, like really much, like really, really hard. So it's not going to be a good choice for this, in my opinion. Moving on to Pendulum Magicians. I think this is going to be right here with Drytron as either the best or second best combo deck for this event, but I don't think it's going to be particularly good because of the same reasons all the other combo decks I don't think are going to be good. Lose to Max C, very mediocre going second, very Glass Cannon-like. Take a long time to combo, so it's going to make your game slow. And it doesn't have as high of FTK potential, I think, as like the Towers does. Right? I think these are going to be a lot more consistent FTKs than these are. So then again, I could be totally crazy, and all these decks could just be like meta defining, and I'm just a complete idiot, which that's totally a possibility. And let me know in the comment section below if I'm a total idiot. But moving on to Runic. This might be bold, but I think Runic's going to be meta-defining. I think the ability... If you don't know how to play against Runic, you're going to lose to this deck. And also, if you're not prepared for this deck, you're going to lose to it. Because it's really hard to lethal this deck. It's really hard to play against it. It's a very technical deck. And it's hard to play against. So if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get screwed. Also, it's toxic. Right? It's very toxic. It grinds like almost better than any other deck in the format. It can play first, it can play second, very well with cards like Lava Golem, all the board breakers, Sphere Mode, so on and so forth. And going first, it can just put up a Majesty's Fiend very easily, and it's just toxic. It plays on your turn with all of its spell cards, with all of its quick plays. It's going to be interesting to say the least. I think this is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and if you're not prepared for it, you're going to lose to it. And the thing is, it's only going to get better with Sprite. Salamangreat. I think Salad's going to be a solid tier 2 option, give or take. It's hard to rank, like, tier 3, tier 2 rogue. This might not be a good measure for an event like this, but I think it's going to be a really good, solid choice. Not a great choice, but a solid one for this event. If you have it, there's nothing wrong with playing it. Its inboards are solid. It's going second strategy solid. It's overall just solid. You're going to have a high win rate with a deck like this because it's just a high win rate type deck, It just, every single game you play, you have a really good chance of winning it with a deck like this. And it doesn't do anything great, but it doesn't do anything bad either. So, I like Salad a lot, but I don't think it has the potential that Marincess and Ignister does. Scareclaw, pure Scareclaw. I'm going to say pure Scareclaw's rogue, but Triclaw, or Tribrigade Scareclaw, we'll rearrange these a little bit. I think Tribrigade Scareclaw is going to be a tier 2 option. I think all the different Tribrigade variants, except like combo Tribrigade with like birds and stuff, so like Tribrigade Lyrilusk, I think all the standard Tri variants are going to be tier 2, like I said before. They're just well-rounded. They can play first, they can play second, play a lot of hand traps, play a lot of non-engine, so on and so forth. They're just great options. Very similar to like Salad in that regard. Sky Striker, I think Striker will be a rogue deck. I don't think it's very good, to be honest with you. I think Striker is very mediocre. I thought it had some potential going into this previous format, but it hasn't shown that at all. It's a slow deck, it's a control deck, so it's going to be inherently at a disadvantage. But even in those slow, controlled, type games, you're still susceptible to losing. Whereas Eldlich and Runic, when they control the game so well, it's almost guaranteed they win. So, yep, I think Rogue's going to be a good place for that. Spiral, guys, it's part of the theme here. All these combo decks I think are going to be mid. And Spiral, it's probably the worst of all of them because it's got the most inconsistencies. It's got it loses to itself the most. And I also think it plays second, probably the worst. Maybe it plays second better than Adamancipator. It might even play second better than Pendulum Magicians, but I'm not sure. I think Dragonlings play the second best going second. I think Dragonlink plays the best going second of these decks, but they kind of all fall in the same category, and they're just so glass cannon-esque that it's going to be hard in an event like this for them to do consistently well. Sword Soul. You guys already know Sword Soul's meta-defining. This deck is going to be everywhere. People are going to just be getting free wins playing Sword Soul, because that's just how the deck be. Protoss is a very unfair card, and it's going to get summoned a lot in this, and I'm not really looking forward to it, but it is what it is. So, I don't think there's much to say about Sword Soul. It's fantastic. And that's why I also think Dinos are going to be so good, because you can main deck Collector. Also, I think Virtual World's going to be really good because you can main deck Collector and send it off Beatrice, which is solid. Very solid. Tribrigade Lyrilusk, I think it's just like all these other combo decks. It's a tier 3, very mid options, very, very mid deck. It's insane going first. It's probably better going second than a lot of these other decks, but yeah, it still loses to Max C very hard. It loses to a lot of hand traps. It loses to itself. It takes a long time to combo. Same thing I've said for all these other ones. I don't want to beat a dead horse too much with all this, but all these combo decks are solid, but not great for an event like this. Umi Control. I think Umi Control is going to be worse than Runic and Eldlich, to be honest with you, but I think it could be solid. Right. Then finally, last but certainly not least, we have Pure Zombies. So this is going to be like Zombie World Control, like the new structure deck stuff, combo zombies, whatever you're going to do. I just wanted to throw this deck on there because it's brand new. I'm so happy it's finally in the game. I love zombies. I think they're so cool. As long as they're not Eldlich, screw those cards. But sadly, I think this is going to be a rogue deck, but I love this deck, and I'm so excited to play it. I'm probably going to play it in the DC Cup just to have fun, but, we'll see. Not the DC Cup, sorry. It's not Duel. No, Dueling's is KC Cup, and people were joking calling this the DC Cup. But it's the Duelist Cup, so sorry about that. I think it's going to be a mediocre choice. You know, Zombie World's not the best Floodgate in the current format. It has its applications, that's for sure, but it's not the best Floodgate. Rivalry's great, and it can play Rivalry very well, but, you know, it's going to be solid, but not great. And I think Rogue's a good place for it. It's probably going to be towards the end of Rogue, but I'm optimistic. We're going to put it at the top of Rogue just because I'm biased. But anyways, that is going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. If you liked this, well, actually, no, scratch that. Let me know in the comment section below how wrong I am on a lot of my choices. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, what decks I left off of this, what decks I'm sleeping on, so on and so forth. And yeah, let me know if you're excited for the Duelist Cup, because this game has been really stale in my opinion the past few months, and maybe the Duelist Cup is actually going to bring a little bit of life back to the game. I hope so. I know it did kind of last time, but it also came with its own scandals and drama and stuff like that, so only time will tell. But anyways, thank you guys again so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below all the stuff I just said before, and of course I will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.